Hello and welcome back. I'm Sean and this is Mountains Garage YouTube channel. This is my 64 Dodge Dart GT that I'm putting an LS single turbo power glide combination in. I'm trying a new angle for my introduction. I'm not sure it's my best one, and also in the past I used to do videos and I'd turn the camera around so I can see myself and my eyes always end up looking crazy, so I'm gonna pretend I'm not actually looking at myself. In the last video, I was trying to make the radiator fit with a truck water pump. That didn't work. So I got a Corvette water pump, put the radiator closer to the intercooler. That fit. I have about an inch to spare. I'll give you some close-ups here in a minute. That allowed me to start working on, well, initially, when you're building a turbo setup, you just can't wait to run the crossover pipes and actually mount the turbo, but that's the last thing I'm going to do. The first thing I decided to do was tackle that downpipe. And I was successful in snaking the 3-inch downpipe, what should be low enough to clear the spark plugs and the wires, because I don't want to build something that's just going to burn wires. So I got it down low enough in the chassis. I got it past the torsion bar. I had to take a page from NASCAR, and basically the pipe from here down is oval, but I have clearance. Not much, but clearance on both sides of the torsion bar. That's going to work. It was a lot of work. I just tried making a bracket off the motor mount, but I can't get my hand in there to actually start it because I want to support the pipe somewhere. I guess I'll support it further back, and I'll be supporting the turbo as well. But right now I have the turbo where I want it, and I can put this manifold back on and actually start making pipes now. Now I had an aha moment the other day. This doesn't happen nearly enough. Excuse the background noise, but in my mind, I'll put this manifold back on, but I've gone back to, it's just going to flip and dump into the back one. I've modified this flange, so it's probably going to work. I sent the other one back. And this pipe, I'm thinking, how am I going to get it down through there? Because everything's tight. I got a lower swivel fitting on the lower coolant hose. I still need to shorten this one potentially and re-bead roll it, but no big deal. I got that much room on the water pump. That's good. This hose here will be a little tricky, but I think I can cut this back and just use this flared section and just have an S arrangement. That's not the end of the world. But I'm trying to figure out where to run that crossover pipe from this side. I've already welded my V-bands on. These things weld fantastic. I love the colors. So I'm sitting there staring at it when it hits me like a ton of bricks. Dummy, just run it around here. I was going to make a cosmetic piece here, maybe a bead roll, a thin piece of sheet metal. Now it's actually going to be a heat shield, and that pipe's going to go right along here and right there. I'm going to wrap it anyway, but I got this big space right here. No problem at all. Why didn't I think of that before? I managed to get the downpipe all the way back to the rear of the transmission pan. I actually had it longer, but this is as long as I can possibly make it and still get it in and out of the car in one piece. There was some points during this journey that I didn't think I'd be able to, I thought I'd have to weld it in place, but we persevered, and it's down here. It's only 3-inch, but the turbo is only like 3 1/4, so I put a little flare on the other end of the pipe and welded it on the V-band. That's just the way it runs. My bench in my whole shop is absolute pandemonium. It's what happens when you're in the middle of creating. I mean, there's cords all over the floor. It's just a mess. Welders everywhere. Like I say, this is the driver's side came out better. This is the first one I did, but this stuff just welds like a dream. And I'm happy, because if you couldn't modify that, well, you'd be looking for other methods. So the makings of the downpipe is just a 3-inch builder's kit. I bought a few of these, so I built the exhaust on the LS Swap Dodge, but gives you all kinds of different bends and also some 4-foot sections that come separate. So you can make a pretty decent exhaust, and these kits aren't bad. It's aluminized It seems to last forever. You can weld it with just regular wire. The aluminized 3-inch pipe comes with grease on the inside. I don't clean the inside out. I don't clean the outside. I just go ahead and weld it, and it TIG welds just fine. Between yesterday doing the downpipe and today doing the hot side, I got about 6 hours in it here and there. The hot side piping is all 409 stainless I had left over from something. I had 4 J-bends. I only used 3 and some random straight pieces that I had. It's just out of convenience. I put the flexible joint there because that was the last 8-inch piece I had. And it worked out pretty well, I think. Tomorrow, I'll pull it all off if I have time and weld it all on the bench. I'll pull the manifolds as well, bolt the V-bands back up. So far, I've welded the manifold side, let them both cool, and I could still take it off and put it back on. And the receiver groove is not warped, so if I can duplicate that, I'll be happy. This whole piece is going to come off as one. I say with some flexible joint, I should be able to bolt it back on without too much trouble. That was the idea. I think it worked out pretty good. The turbo's packaged way over there in the corner. I'm going to wrap this pipe, well, probably all of it or some of it. Eventually, I'm not exactly in love with exhaust wrap, but it does a pretty good job. I don't use the little stainless tie bands that come with it. I use hose clamps. But if you got a better idea, let me know. It's pretty busy on this side, but everything clears by some. I drill and tap the heater hose connections and plug them. If I wanted to run a heater, I can put 45 threaded NPT fittings to heater hose and run them either up or down. For now, I'm going to plug them like I always do. After I get the hot side welded up and reinstalled, I'm going to make a bracket using these 3 bolts on the cylinder head that covers the freeze plug to hold it in like you saw me do on the 6-liter I built for the 72 Nova. I capture all 4 freeze plugs in the head so you don't blow them out if you have a mishap with lifting the head, because they will pop out. There's no freeze plugs to pop out in the block, but the cylinder head freeze plugs will pop out. So I'm going to make a triangle bracket there and then run a bracket over to these bolts to support the turbo. I don't want to leave it hanging on just the piping. And my original intention was to take the extra inner fender that I have and repair this all so it looks stock. However, when I do that, I can't get my hand in there to access the spark plugs or to put in the manifold bolts. So I believe I'm going to grind all the welds on this abomination and make it serviceable, leaving the holes here so I can service everything I need to get at over here, because I don't want to build something that's hard to work on. I hate that. Running the crossover like I did now gives me plenty of room to run the cold side up to the throttle body. That was going to be a concern. Now it's wide open sailing over there, so that makes me happy. That'll be less of a nightmare. I was totally over-engineering or over-figuring trying to run the hot side in here. But in this case, I've successfully snuck everything in ahead of the radiator support. All I got to do now is cut a hole over here for my fresh air intake. I might even be able to get some kind of air filter in the grill. That'll be kind of cool. I think it's going to be all right. I'm not going to add any more exhaust under the car until I change out the subframe connectors. I've been looking at how they reinforce and put all the extra tubing in underneath the stock floorboards when you're going for a 750 cert. I only want an 850 roll cage, which is coming up eventually here, but if I could add some understructure and make the whole job easier, kind of, we'll see. So that's down the road a little ways, but I have a bunch of roll cage tubing that's bent up and some straight stuff and a bender, so I'm going to build something. But 850 cert will be sufficient. Without it, it would be too scary, just a hunk of sheet metal with too much power, so that's that. Before I do any more welding, I have to pick up this mess. I'm used to working in my shop because I have too much stuff in here, and I work around it for now. But when you drag everything out, take everything out of the boxes, you got 3 or 4 pieces of equipment plugged in, spread out. Towards the end, I needed to flare one of these pipes. So I had to dig out and fire up my exhaust bender. So I actually have a hydraulic bender, which I guess I could have built that whole thing. You know, wouldn't be as nice as mandrel bends. This is actually easier, to be honest. But either way, this is pretty good stuff. It's not super fancy, but it's not, you know, regular steel exhaust piping either. Pretty thick. I didn't measure it, but it welds nice too. You can use stainless TIG rod, or you can just use ER70S, either in the MIG or mild steel. It doesn't care. It's going to get painted and wrapped, and it'll last longer than I want it to anyway, probably. So that's that. Yeah, what a mess. I saw a good tip on the internet, and it actually really played out today, is when you go to cut one of these, when you're just trying to test fit something, don't go right angles and perfect offset, and you know, cut with the thing, and you'll find it fits better, and you don't end up with just 45s and 90s. You need odd angles. I didn't believe it. The first piece I cut, I actually messed up because I cut it straight across and ended up using it elsewhere. So I almost cost myself a J-bend because I didn't even take the advice that I knew. It was up there somewhere. And then it registered, hey, cut weird angles, it'll probably fit. I love using the bandsaw to cut the tubing. It's great when you're back here, but it gets pretty scary when you want to trim off little pieces. I still got, you know, 10 fingers, so that worked out, but you definitely, I have a pusher bar, and it only got hairy a couple times. You could easily get sucked in, and typically happens with every job. I started using another disc sander that I had, and the disc blew up and jammed the machine up. So when you have enough equipment, you can count on something going down right when you want it. But I was almost done, so I just used something else. But that's just the way it goes. So it's a couple days before New Year's. I don't really do resolutions and stuff like that, but I suppose maybe I'll give it a thought this year. So it's coming up on 2 years of making videos. That blows my mind. But I got to count up the videos, but it's got to be 275 or more. Hard to believe. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in a couple days.